Express. Served to you fresh. We present to you local and international newspaper headlines for the day with in-depth analysis from seasoned professionals. Start your day the right way on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Nigeria Info.
It's a very fantastic morning. Happy holidays to you. If you have a holiday, it's the 11th day of November 2019. Monday morning it is, but it doesn't feel like a Monday across Nigeria because there is a public holiday. But we are here to serve you the best of news, talk and sport on your number one news, talk and sports station, Nigeria Info FM. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube as we bring you stories from the front pages. I am Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. Feel free to join our live streams on YouTube and Facebook. You can just search for Nigeria Info 99.3. As we go along on the show, we'll also be taking your thoughts on our WhatsApp portal. The WhatsApp line is 0809 597 5805. Rotimi Sankore joins us in the studio this morning. Rotimi, happy holidays to you. And good morning.
It just nods. There is no holiday around here, guys. If you also like to reach us on Twitter, it's at Nigeria Info FM. WhatsApp is 08095975805. There are many messages there, but we'll try to read as many as we can. We have a Guardian on the table, our media partners. We have the Punch, this day newspaper, as well as Daily Trust on this side.
I have Daily Independent here, the New Telegraph, Nigerian Express, Daily Sun, and the Nation.
Let's start with, of course, the holidays. At Eid al-Maulud, Buhari, Gbajabiamila, others preach peace and unity. That's coming from the Guardian newspaper. The Punch also has a similar headline. Eid al-Maulud, shun violent extremism, Buhari tells Muslims. That's from the Punch newspaper. This day newspaper, Buhari, violent extremism, Islam's single image crisis, condemns killings, kidnap of women, conversion, forced marriage. That's from this day. And from all the papers today, I guess we have other stories.
Right, Daily Independent, the New Telegraph, Daily Sun, the Nation all have similar headline as regards violent extremism, Islam's greatest challenge, credited to President Muhammadu Buhari. Well, Rotimi.
Should I just go back and sleep?
You couldn't.
So we can get back.
No, you couldn't.
Even Sheriff, I never get himself.
Really?
Well, it's always a time to put out this kind of messages. Condemn extremism, condemn violence, condemn corruption, call for peace. The problem here, however, is that when the government is only calling for, and not actually acting, then there is a problem. Because some of the things that the president has listed, I mean, the issue of forced child marriage, for instance. I mean, this is within the power of not just the federal government, but many state governments to end.
Absolutely.
I mean, all you have to just point out is to say, look, henceforth, this one does not even need an executive order.
Mm-hmm.
All the treaties and constitutional protection for the right of girl children are just being flouted with impunity, including our Child Rights Act. If the federal government and the 36 state governments and the FCT tomorrow morning make it clear that henceforth it will no longer be tolerated that any girl under 18 is forced into a devilish condition, very wrongly described as marriage, it won't be tolerated. All girls henceforth report to the nearest police station if anybody tries to put you in such a condition.
Right.
If you're already in such a condition, we are here to free you and send you to school. And, then we'll start seeing progress. Just calling for an end to when you are government, it's not proper, it's not acceptable, and it's not enough.
Right. Let's move it up and talk about the military on the front page of The Guardian. Army gets 34 new major generals, others. Navy names more commanders. You find this from The Guardian newspaper. Let's see if we have it in other papers.
It's here on the front page of Daily Independent newspaper. Army promotes 34 brigadier generals, 47 colonels. Riders, Air Force elevate 13 AMVs, 86 others. Navy promotes 140 officers. Front page, Daily Independent newspaper. It's on the front page of the New Telegraph newspaper as well. Military promotes 380 senior officers. Army, 35 major generals. Navy, 17 rear admirals. Air Force, 13 AVMs. That's on the front page of the New Telegraph newspaper. You can find the same story on the front page of Daily Sun newspaper. Mass promotion in military as Army gets 34 new major generals, 47 brigadier generals. That's from Daily Sun. And from the Nation newspaper, Army, Navy, Air Force lift officers, 320 elevated.
Well, the Daily Trust also has this, and on page 8 of the paper, you can find the names of several of these people who have been promoted. The Nigerian Air Force, 99 senior officers were announced. In the Nigerian Navy, 140. More than 80 were promoted in the Nigerian Army. The Air Force comprised 13 air commanders, that's the air cadres, promoted to the rank of air vice marshals, 35 group captains to air cadre, and 15 wing commanders to wing cadres, and so on and so on it goes. Do more national security, says reps on page 8 of the Daily Trust. Rotimi.
Well,
congratulations to them, first of all.
That's the only thing to say.
Right. And we hope that this would reflect on how we tackle security issues in Nigeria. Hopefully.
But that's not their work now.
What's their work?
Their work is to fight external war.
Yeah, that's what I just said now.
No, you said security issues in Nigeria. That's police work.
Aren't they fighting Boko Haram in Nigeria? Is Boko Haram outside of Nigeria?
We should have been specific.
But it's in Nigeria now.
Yes.
There's nothing ambiguous about that.
Create inadvertently.
There was no such impression.
Is to promote security across Nigeria.
There was no such impression.
Because Femi Falana has just saved them from embarrassment of having to check ID all over the country.
Some saving that was.
No, it's true now. They would have got into trouble.
Let's quickly move on. Let's take this story on the front page of Daily Independent newspaper. One killed, several injured as Hausa OPC clash in Lagos. It's on the front page of Daily Independent newspaper. Let's flip through to page 12 of the paper and get an idea of what this story is all about. Okay, here we go now. One person was on Sunday killed, while several others were injured in a clash between Hausa community and members of the Odua People's Congress OPC at Okobaba Ibutimeta area of Lagos. The violent clash erupted in the area in the early hours of Sunday between a group of truck pushers who specialized in scraps business, mainly Hausas, and some OPC members. Men of the Denton Police Station, Lagos State Command, who raced to the scene of the clash, later restored peace and normalcy to the area. That's from Daily Independent newspaper.
It's sad, but all these things are signs of underdevelopment. The more developed a society, the less you have all this militia clash, gang clash, people chasing themselves about in the middle of the city with sticks, machetes, guns, and all kinds of things. That's why I always make this point that the first thing to do for security is education, jobs, employment, industrialization, housing, healthcare. Once all those things are done, all these clashes and things will reduce. Because if those things are not done, then the police work is going to, the police will find itself overstretched.
Right.
And then we'll find this kind of scenario in which some people are suggesting that it is the work of soldier, Navy, and Air Force, I just keep going back to this thing that the Army Chief of Staff may think that, the court order that Femi Falana secured to stop them from doing this Operation ID, he may think it is an act of effrontery. In reality, it has saved the Chief of Army Staff from having to explain and defend all kinds of, brutality and attacks on civilians. Because there is no way it would not have ended badly. Soldiers are not trained to stop young people especially and have civil discussions about produce ID card that many of them don't have. So, develop the economy, industrialize jobs, and all these things will reduce or even end completely.
Let's move on and see this story from the Daily Trust. DPR suspends building operation of filling stations near borders. You can find the detail of this on page 16. And here it reads, Nigeria's oil and gas regulator, the Department of Petroleum Resources, has suspended the applications for approval to construct and license to operate filling stations located within 20 kilometers along border area indefinitely. A notice seen by the Daily Trust banned the retail of petroleum products and the processing of applications for approval to construct APT and license to operate LTO filling stations within 20 kilometers to the borders. The DPR in the notice said the directive was to complement the federal government's efforts at curtailing smuggling of petroleum products across the country's national borders. Paul Osu, DPR's Public Affairs Officer, said by this notice, all depots and petroleum product suppliers are hereby advised to suspend supplies to these locations until further notice. So if you stay 20 kilometers, if you live 20 kilometers away from the borders, where do they find for?
This is going to have all kinds of implications. So first of all, what they are saying is that if you live 20 kilometers from the border, your car now runs on water.
Or you have to come into town to buy it.
Who has time for that?
But here's the thing. Those filling stations, it's just a license to build them, right? So that means they already had their way. The people there.
Not just to build, to construct and license to operate filling stations. So we don't know if this will affect existing filling stations.
Exactly. So the filling stations.
But they've already then said that if the fuel station exists and it is within 20 kilometers of the border, it should also not be supplied with fuel.
Right.
So they've said don't supply those that are there. Don't build new ones. In other words, if you live within 20 kilometers of the border, your life is going to become seriously hellish now. And this is in a country where the government has not been able to supply electricity.
Right.
So if your generator is within 20 kilometers of the border, you better convert it to run on Konga water or something.
This is what it is.
Even the telecom operators are beginning to look at this thing and say there is something wrong with the way public policy is done. They need generator to run their cell, their towers.
They've cried out that this might actually interfere with services in those areas.
Not might. The services will start to drop.
Well, the
national
national
call
chairman
will also affect security.
The national chairman of Petroleum Tankers Drivers Branch of Nigeria Union, this is quite long, of NUPENG, let me summarize. Comrade Salimon Akani Oladiti said tanker drivers have no option than to comply with the government's directive. And this suspension comes a day after the Nigerian Customs Service said it would restrict the supply of petrol to filling stations in the same region as part of measures to combat the illegal smuggling. I quote now, approval for petrol stations for marketers is by the federal government. This is coming from the Nupeng.
Right.
And if the federal government says we should not carry petrol to these areas, we have no other option than to comply, because anything that is going to improve our economy and security, we support it 100%. Asked the potential economic impact of the directive on tanker drivers, he said, if the federal government says we should not carry products to the border, why should we be against it?
More importantly, all these things are diversionary tactics. What we fix the economy is to fix the refineries. You know, this idea of shadow boxing, we should keep our eye on the ball. In this case, the ball is fix the refineries. If you fix the refineries, more than half of this fuel-related problem will automatically be resolved.
But how do we keep the economy
it's like
running
somebody that
while
has
we're
a
waiting
huge,
to fix the
It's
refinery?
like somebody that has a huge bin beside their office or shop or something and doesn't understand that is the cause of the problem. Then you go and wrap 10 newspapers and start chasing flies all over the place from morning to night.
So my question is, the refineries won't be fixed overnight. So how do we keep the economy running while we're waiting to fix the refinery when some activities are sabotaging the efforts of the government?
Refinery can't be fixed overnight.
Of course.
How long does it take to fix refinery?
But it won't be overnight, will it?
No, but what is overnight now? If they are serious, the refinery is already standing.
Right.
Is it not turnaround maintenance?
Yes, which won't be as quickly as fixing or stopping
Sheriff,
what the menace of smuggling
honestly,
is doing to
honestly,
the economy.
I have no idea if this kind of questioning is devil's advocate or not.
You don't have to have the idea. The problem is smuggling or smuggling activities hurting
the
our
refinery
economy
matter can be resolved in 1 month or less.
I doubt that. But let's move on.
Engineering,
I seriously
turnaround maintenance.
I seriously doubt that. 1 month, no.
Turnaround maintenance.
We are not talking about one refinery here. So I seriously doubt that. Can we move on?
Yeah, the system with that border
this
is
your logic is not functional now.
1 minute, 1 minute.
It's like saying that if you have 20 cars, you need 20 days to service them.
So we're not talking about filling station. We're talking about refineries.
You can service 20 cars in the same time it takes to service one car.
I am very sure that is not your specialty, so you can't really say authoritatively.
Turn around maintenance.
All right, guys. Let's stay with the borders.
Yes.
And there's a report here
Haven't
from
you been living in this country? You worked in Port Harcourt.
Can we move on? Can we move on?
Please. From this newspaper, there's a report here about this day. Border closure boosts Naira at parallel market. This report is on the front page of This Day, and here it reads: a close of the country's land borders to its neighbors has kept the value of the Naira strong at the parallel market, according to a new report. The managing director of the Chief Executive Officer, Financial Derivatives Company Limited, Mr. Bismarck Rwani, stated this in a report titled "A Pound of Flesh," which is presented at the Lagos Business School's monthly executive breakfast session, which is included in this report. So they're saying that, the Naira is steady and is being boosted by the closure of the border.
Indeed. Let's go to Bayelsa and Kogi.
Sorry, guys.
Again,
we need to point out, what we studied in Naira is industrialization and exports of finished processed goods. If we add value to things, if we manufacture things and export them,
right,
that is what will actually add value to the Naira. All these statements suggesting that border closure is the solution to every problem that we have, honestly, is either ignorant, mischievous, or just pandering to bad policy making. There are a whole lot of things that we can fix, and the borders will run as usual. In any case, what is the work of customs? The work of customs is to keep the border secure.
Right.
So if you have customs and then you have to shut the border down indefinitely, what are the customs doing there?
Big question. that needs to be answered, really. Moving on to Kogi and Bayelsa now. Just to reiterate, we'll be doing an extensive coverage of that election, or the elections in Bayelsa and Kogi, starting Friday. As a matter of fact, Thursday evening. You should join our coverage and live coverage of the events there. On the front page of New Telegraph newspaper, INEC frets over violence in Bayelsa, Kogi polls. 19 political parties withdraw from Saturday's Guba polls. Rider wreck credible poll under chaotic condition. Impossible. That's from the New Telegraph this morning. Rotimi.
Well,
I mean, INEC themselves, they are not sure of how this election will pan out.
Well, because a lot of things that go into election is beyond the control of INEC. INEC's work essentially is to do the overall logistics, organization, process, and so forth like that. If all the roads are bad, then INEC has a problem with logistics. You know, if there is no light, INEC has a problem. I mean, we saw even the voter registration. In some places, people will queue and queue and queue,
Right.
and there will be no lights in the place.
Right.
Or if it rains and the roads are flooded, the poor guys that have been given the work may turn up 4 hours or 5 hours late because they are coming from somewhere and the roads are flooded and there is hold up. So there are many things that are not in the control of INEC. Even the voter registration. In developed country, people don't have voter card because already when you are born, there is civil registration. It comes with your birth certificate, your social security number, and other forms of ID that you don't have to go and enroll for. All that is needed is that you know where you are to vote. At the very worst, if any ID is needed, then it is all the regular ID that every other person carries.
There
anyway.
is need to simplify, like you're saying, Rotimi, to simplify our voting process. And the fear of others will be, how can we make this, if we want to simplify, how can we make it credible? Some people are saying that maybe we might not be ready for that yet, as regards our technological, backbone.
There is the bigger public policy governance issues to deal with. Once those things are dealt with, then the voting process will go smoothly. All these people calling for electronic voting, they don't even know what they are talking about. In developed country, they tried it and they moved back from it.
Right. Let me hold you here so we can go out to pay some bills. Thank you all for joining the front pages. The comments are so overwhelming on Facebook. Let me take just one on our way out. So many comments about the holiday, but no, thank you. Okay, so let's see this one. Festus Okundia says government decision on the fuel is the best option for now. Does fixing refinery check smuggling? A pipe runs from Nigeria to other countries from the border. Others are saying, what happens to the filling stations currently at the borders, particularly the new ones that were built on loans obtained from banks? That directive does not make sense. That's from Olawale Anthony. Thank you all. We need to go now. When we come back from the break,
between the price of the fuel and the smuggling.
Right. Once we come back from the break, we're bringing you comments about foreigners allegedly taking over local markets in Lagos State and selling what local marketers should be selling. We'll talk about what foreigners can do or cannot do in Nigeria. What does their permit allow or not? Join us for this conversation right after this break. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I'm Sheriff Quadry.